The Renault Triber has redefined the small car segment, and we say that because even though it's priced similar to the Maruti Suzuki Swift and the Grand i10 Nios, it can seat 7. And if 7-seaters don't float your boat, well then it's a 5-seater with a boot that's big enough to shame even the likes of the full-fat Range Rover. But a family car needs to do more than just transport people and haul luggage. Here then are 5 things that work in the Triber's favor and 2 that don't. Like we said, the Triber can transport 7 people and it can haul more luggage than you can pack, and that's all down to smart engineering. For starters, the wheelbase, it's a really long wheelbase. It's almost as long as the Duster and in fact longer than the Hyundai Creta. But that's not all. Then you've got the wheels which are right at the edges. And then you've got a firewall that starts at the front wheel. So inside the space, you get a lot of space that's been liberated. Which means traveling with 7 people in the Triber is more like working in a co-working space and not like being packed like sardines in the Mumbai local. But the Triber doesn't just score well on space when it comes to its interiors. It also has one of the most practical cabins we have seen, and not just for its class. You get 2 glove boxes and both very usable. The front door pockets are big and designed well to hold large bottles. You get 2 deck storage on the front central console, and there are cup holders for the front 2 occupants as well. Second row occupants get usable door pockets as well, and that's not all. They also get pillar mounted AC vents and seats that adjust for both recline and reach. There's also central storage space that is shared between the front and rear occupants, and it is cooled. As for the last row, it gets armrests and a tiny bit of storage as well. But seating is only part of it. You can also throw out the last row of seats completely to load up bags and suitcases. And then, when you fold the second row, well, it opens up a whole new set of opportunities. Now when it comes to seating, space and practicality, the Triber scores well, no doubt about that. But even in terms of comfort and convenience related equipment, the Triber has, if not all, but most of it. So it doesn't get steering mounted controls like its competition does, but you do get keyless entry and start. You have a multimedia system, you've got a driver information system there, you've got ORVMs that can be adjusted electrically. For fold, you got to do that manually. You've got power window switches for all 4 doors, and the driver's side has a one-touch functionality for both up and down. You've also got twin glove boxes here for added storage space. You've got a manual AC. It's not a digital unit, it's a single zone unit, but it does have rear AC vents, and those can be adjusted with the help of a dial here. In terms of safety, the RXZ gets 4 airbags, but all meant for the front 2 occupants, which is a bit silly. Other safety kit includes ABS, EBD and adjustable headrests for 4 occupants, the one seated at the doors in the second row and both the last row passengers. Now when it comes to ride and handling, Renault's reached a good compromise with the Triber. Let's talk ride first. And over undulating roads, poor roads, poorly surfaced roads, road joints, if you're doing anything over, let's say 60-70 kilometers per hour, the ride's pretty flat. You can hear it, but you can't really feel so much, so it's quite comfortable. At slower speeds, the ride is or feels a little stiffer. It's like if you were to run the car with inflated air pressures for better fuel efficiency, for instance. It's that sort of feel to the ride. The car, of course, did not run higher air pressures. We checked it. It was as specified by Renault. So, comfort-wise, it's good. Works better at higher speeds. But even at lower speeds, you can hear it more than you can feel it. So, it's not bad. And when you steer it into a corner, the Triber feels taut and neutral. It manages quick direction changes well too. Yes, it rolls a bit when pushed hard, but it isn't unnerving or exaggerated. Plus, the clutch is light to operate, as is the steering, and the visibility, at least over the hood and via the A-pillars, make it an easy car to live with in the city. The Triber we have here is the top spec RX-Z trim, and it costs 7.71 lakhs on the road in Mumbai. But it starts at 6 lakhs on the road.
It's actually 5.81 lakhs.
Okay, so it actually starts at under 6 lakh for the entry level on the road in Mumbai, which makes it cheaper than the Swift and the Grand i10, and in fact cheaper than the Wagon VXI. And this for a car that's spacious, practical, comfortable, and it can seat 7. Not bad at all. You can hear the Triber's engine inside the cabin from the get-go, and the higher you rev it, the more or the noisier it gets, and it's more of a whine than a throaty note, so it's not really enjoyable. If I were to put it in terms of singers, I'd say that it's more Eminem than Johnny Cash, or if you are a Bollywood fan like me, then it's more Himesh Reshammiya than Mika Singh, for instance. Now, we understand that maybe Renault couldn't do much about the way the engine sounds, but they could have added better insulation in the cabin. So it's still a car that costs about 7.7 lakh rupees. So that sort of insulation would have given a little more premium feel to the car. Otherwise, you're constantly hearing the whine because you are driving between 3.5 to 4.5, especially with people on board. So unless you turn up the music, it just starts to get to you. Yeah. And now to address the elephant in the room, or the engine in the Triber. So the engine is a 1 litre. Now for a 7-seater, you might think with a little over 70 horsepower and a little under 100 Newton meters of torque, it might not be enough. But if you're driving alone, if you're driving with 2 people, even if you're driving with 4, and you're driving in the city, stop and go traffic, or if you have to make a hurried trip to the airport with your in-laws, I know that's cliche, but you get the idea. The Triber manages it all. I mean, till the time you are not aggressive with the throttle, till the time you don't want to race with anybody on the road, the Triber, the 1 litre engine feels it feels more than adequate. It feels absolutely fine. You can get it rolling in first when you're even with 3 people or 4 people on clutch alone. You don't even have to get on the throttle. But the question is, this is a 7-seater. So even though it might not be used as a 7-seater very often, there will be times when you will want to use it. And when you do, will this 1 litre engine be enough? Well, there's only one way to find that out. That's to get some company on board. Shall we? All right, jump in. Okay. So now, as you see, we've got 7 people aboard. We've got everybody from our road test editor to a photographer to the rest of the marriage party all in the car, right? And these are not light individuals. These are all heavy. Somebody's 70, somebody's 80. So like me, hefty, they're well-fed people. With them on board, you can immediately tell that you need a little more throttle. You need a little more effort. I mean, in terms of working the engine to get to similar speeds as we did with just 1 or 2 people on board. And because you need to rev it more, the engine, it sounds louder, so it's not as pleasant. In the city, if you're making a dash to the mall, 4 or 5 kilometers, so many people on board, again, no problem. The Triber should manage it, the 1 litre engine should manage it. But if you want to drive faster, if you want to, get on an incline or negotiate an incline with as many people on board, that's when things can get a little challenging. And challenging in terms of you will have to work the clutch a little more, you'll have to give in a little more throttle, you'll have to do that dance between clutch and throttle to get a clean go from a standstill especially. But it can work, it's not like it's unacceptable. Now there's no doubt the Triber is a great value proposition. Consider space, practicality, comfort, and even the design, the way it looks. I think it looks really good, and all at an affordable price. It, like I said, great value proposition. Now the 1-liter engine works fine for most part. You drive it in the city, even on the highways. If you're not really pushing it, it's fine. But yes, there are a few issues with that engine, especially if you load 7 and try and going up an incline. You really need to work the clutch and the throttle, which ideally you wouldn't want to do. And if you like driving, if you like a performance packed engine, if you like an engine that sounds good in revs and like just packs in a lot of performance, this engine isn't for you. But for every other practical purpose, the Triber is a great family car.